Can you introduce yourself?
My name's Tyson, the co-owner of Rebel Farms.
I'm Maggie, co-owner of Rebel Farms.
I'm Savannah, a manager of Rebel Farms.
Woo! Can you tell us a little bit about your farm / garden? Like, what is it for market gardening? Are we looking to build this type of forestry and other land? Essentially, what is the purpose behind it?
Why are we doing this? The main reason is to test what can and cannot be viable to grow in Central Florida. What fruit trees, what understories, what natives, what pollinators, to be a test garden, basically. As I was explaining to you guys earlier about collecting data. But it's also a demonstration homestead to show that, you know, even with small spaces, you can turn a regular house with a regular yard into a food forest, a garden, or a mixture of both. And now Rebel Farms, as it's growing with our new neighbors and their setups and their gardens and their food forest, what we're trying to do is basically establish the concept of an agrihood. So turning regular neighborhoods that are 50, 40, 30 years old into thriving communities that have interconnecting food forests and gardens.
Yes.
So it's a lot of things.
Beautiful. I think you summed it up well.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, you did that perfect, actually.
Thanks.
So how long have you been doing this, and how has your journey evolved?
So I did want to add just one little part of like why we do this too is also we go beyond the agrihood too into our communities, and so we have like 3 basically tiers of how we help. And so one is inviting people here and showing them what's possible and giving away our knowledge, giving away our produce, educating. And then we also do design. So like we'll go to people's yards and provide them a design based on everything that we know with light and soil composition of what will work for them so that they can do it themselves. And that's
Perfect.
pretty cost effective. And then we also have big botanical gardens that we've installed for people so that we we can really operate on all sorts of different scales of bringing this to the public.
For sure.
And then we also have something like in the works around a nonprofit where we're going to want to start going into schools and also gardening in the medians and like really bringing guerrilla gardening to the community as well.
For sure.
So that's like the
purpose.
Yeah, the purpose, like, yeah, exactly. The purpose beyond what we're insular doing here and like our model, and also like how we're bringing it outside as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just spreading the love.
Yeah.
In every way. Neighborhoods, cities, schools. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Savannah, did you want to add anything to that?
Self-sustained. Self-sustaining life, really. We want to close the loop.
Yeah.
And make everything that we need accessible within our close vicinity. That's mainly my biggest mission for myself, and to help others get there as well, because I just think it's an incredibly important investment that we all make for our futures, for our children. It maybe comes from a bit of a cynical place, but I have very little trust in the structures that be.
I don't think any millennial does at this point. We've been trained. Yeah. Like, how many times has the world supposed to end since we've been alive?
Exactly.
At least 3.
At least 3.
Like, seriously, every 10 years they're hitting us with you might die.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think it's pretty reasonable. I'm trying to, work to build my own structures. I found these guys who are already put all the bones in, and I get to just learn from them all of those, how those bones can flourish and build all the sustaining life around it. So
for sure.
Yeah. But to answer your next question about
how long,
yeah, I'll say for myself, I've been working with plants for the past 8, 9 years, and it actually has evolved a lot. I started growing vegetables in a farm setting and did that for about 7 years until it became not as sustaining as I would have liked it to be. So I popped out of there, had a little bit of a existential crisis, and then realized how much sustainable growth was important to me, and that even very small scale organic veggie farming is not sustainable.
Yep.
Every single person I worked with felt the burnout, and we were not working 40 hours a week. We were part-time workers and still struggling to maintain our work-life balance and sanity, even with incredibly delicious, nutritious food all around us all the time. So it became abundantly clear to me that food forestry, kind of the old ways, like how people used to, the indigenous people of this land were growing their own food, was integrated with the earth, with the natives, with everything that made sense. And instead of just plowing everything down and putting the specific things that you want in the ground. So once I read the mission statement on Rebel Farms website, I was like, this is exactly where I was meant to be. So I'm grateful to be here and learning, how to have both veggies, fruits, natives, the closed loop system that I think we all need to kind of head towards.
For sure.
It feels like a great evolution. I'm just incredibly grateful for how my life has pushed me in this direction. So.
Yeah.
When I met Tyson 6 years ago, I asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he said an avocado farmer.
Cool.
And I was like, well, I'm buying this house and we could plant some avocado trees.
That's a great pickup line.
Yeah.
I gotta write that down.
He was restoring old Land Rovers at the time, and I was like, would you rather farm or work on cars? And he was like, oh, farm all day, every day. And I was like, okay, great, let's do it.
That's awesome.
And luckily when we met, this obviously was not the ideal house for that. So it's kind of been like, have you heard the saying, like, necessity is the mother of all invention? Like, we needed to figure out how to farm here.
Got you.
Because we wanted more land, but right as we got together, COVID was hitting, and like all of a sudden we watched like these farms that we kind of had our eye on double in price, and we were just like, we can't do it. We have to figure out how to do it here, what we want to do. And so that's when Rebel Farms really took root. We started taking out plants that were here because the woman that lived here was very much a gardener. But she was gardening towards the end of her life, and so a lot of things were like still in pots and just kind of thrown around, and we wanted to pay homage to her by building out the gardens here, but replacing it with food and beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've done that.
And so, and it's just evolved since then. So really, and then there's been many evolutions of the land too, since we got hit by hurricanes and have had to rebuild in a different way, different iterations of the farm. And then Tyson and I and Savannah are always kind of like expanding. Like every time, we all have that thing in us of just like, what else can we do?
Yeah.
How can we make this better? How can we build out this little, we look at these little sections right here and we're like, why is nothing planted there?
Wow.
I
love it.
Even though we do also appreciate meadows and flow and space, because Tyson and I, also in starting Rebel Farms, were like very dedicated to design, which we feel like sometimes gets lost in food forestry and permaculture. It's like sometimes it's not as pretty, and it's like we want it to be designed well and beautifully and with a feng shui, so you can like walk around these gardens and pick food like that. that you get all the feels from it.
Yeah, for sure. Very cottagey.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you have anything to add?
I mean, we already touched on it, but I would say that the evolution has been from like, we need to, her principle at first was practicing everything at first. So scaling up avocado trees. So now we have 60 avocado trees. All right, we're out of space. Okay, well, we need to learn how to build buildings. So we built the A-frame guest house. Now we're getting ready to build another house and probably other buildings on other properties nearby. But as we got priced out of farmland, because we went and looked at farmland, we went and, because we knew that was my goal, was like, hey, we need 10 acres, we need 30 acres, I need to expand. And now that model has changed because since we've been priced out or are competing against developers, it's looking around our neighborhood and going, well, there's a vacant lot right there. That neighbor's house has a whole, blank canvas. Let's start planting there and convincing them to plant. So that's what I was telling you earlier, is like now the model has gone from buying farmland and scaling it up and investing tens of thousands of dollars to going house to house in our neighborhood and saying, hey, can we plant some fruit trees here? We'll take care of them. We get to try new trees. You get the fruit. We get the data. We all benefit collectively. So the model has changed from like traditional farming where we're the farmers, we own the land, we own the means of production to everybody is part of a community where we get to work together communally and share together communally. So I would say the model has changed, evolved a lot.
It sounds like for the better for each of you.
Not for me.
Oh, because the work.
Work. Yeah. When the new project that you saw across the street, we've just put in huge agri-beds and garden beds, and they showed up at spring, moved in. We've got babies, they've got babies, and it's like I've got 2 full-time jobs. I've got this, and I got to help manage that. And so it's been a lot, but through it all, we're working out conflict resolution, working together communally, coming up with scheduling, coming up with big boards where we write things down, our priorities, and we figure out how to tackle these jobs collectively as a tribe, basically. So, yeah.
You guys are definitely all handling your duties. For sure. It's a lot, though, especially when you bring kids into it.
It is.
So... I got you. I'm not into cats, so I'm surprised that we're like vibing right now. This is crazy.
She is a vibe. No. Even the cats have a purpose. So it's actually pretty wild that the cats keep they keep the vermin out, like rats and stuff. We used to actually have like river rats, serious rat problems. Mm-hmm. And since we've gotten the cats, they're gone. And then the birds actually, we love birds and want to support the birds, but also birds eat your fruit. And so they have a healthy relationship with the birds where they chase them. They don't really kill the birds, but
it's
they
playful.
Don't eat the fruit either.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they would love to catch the birds.
Yeah.
But they don't.
But they're not murdering them in your yard and bringing them to your doorstep. So
only on occasion.
Got you. That was gonna be my next question actually about well, I guess it's 2 things and I feel like you could be answering them together, but tell us about your growing methods and how do you handle your pest weeds naturally? I know you do permaculture and centropic gardening, so those kind of go hand in hand. So if you wanted to explain a little bit about that in the orchestration of like how you have the dune sunflower at the bottom and the different layers and how that works with pest control. I know that's a long-winded question.
Give it a sense.
Well, specifically for weed control, we prioritize ground covers like the dune sunflower. We just planted some sunshine mimosa over on the other side of the pool.
Awesome.
And that one will quickly spread and sprawl out and hopefully provide like a very full ground cover that can take light traffic. And ultimately, there are weeds out there that will not come back from you know, being suppressed by a ground cover. And then there are weeds like nutsedge that won't stop. But with a good ground cover, it'll suppress enough of them, and then you won't really notice a few nutsedge that come up. So that's my pretty much ideal, is like, let's get a ground cover in, because the earth wants to grow something. Like, as much as we love having mulched pathways and, you know, some areas that are kind of like a monocrop or just nothing at all, the earth is still trying to push something green up. And so to work with the earth, I like to, you know, just explore the different kinds of ground covers that we can use. There's so many, especially native ones, that work pretty well. For pest management, we don't really spray anything at all. Like nothing. There might be, if there's like a really intense bug situation, we'll go in with some soapy water and just kind of knock them off, and that seems to do the trick. I think for us, pest management is mostly just paying attention to the plants, and when we notice there's a problem, taking that step. But it's not an everyday thing. It's definitely not a toxic thing, and there are certain pests like those grasshoppers that when we're walking around the garden, we won't let one that's in our line of vision go. Because if we do, we know we're going to end up with droves more. So there's just certain pests that we will take the opportunity of eliminating. And other pests, we know there are beneficial bugs out there doing that work for us. So there's assassin bugs, there are stink bugs, there are wasps that will basically eat away a lot of the pests that we're worried about. Those grasshoppers even get eaten by wasps. The worms and such, the aphids will get eaten by the assassin bugs. So we see actually a lot of beneficial bugs around here, and I think that's mainly just due to having such a diverse foliage that it'll attract in a good amount of those beneficial bugs, and they just do the work for us.
Got you.
Yeah.
So planting densely and planting diversely. Essentially.
It's really important.
Diversely. Got it.
We've got, I'm actually a big fan of, like, in the kitchen garden, of having rosemary around, as well as the Thai basil, like really kind of fragrant herbs. Planting those around your gardens, I find that to be pretty helpful. We have released ladybugs before, twice here, and they're still around. So, like, we've tried mantises, which we never saw them we released them in a rainstorm, which I think was a bad idea. Like, it rained like right after we released them, and we were like, and we haven't seen them since.
They ran for cover.
But there were like thousands of babies, so I don't know.
They're good at hiding though.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we would have seen one by now, but
you're right, the plants themselves, like marigolds.
Yeah. Marigolds. We feed a lot of the weeds to the chickens, which is really helpful. You do have to remove the tomato hornworm by hand. So, like, that's something that I'm always telling people, like, as soon as your tomato leaves start getting eaten, they're there, and you need to spend 3 nights in a row with a headlamp killing every single one until your whole hands are green.
Ew.
Because they're just not going to go away until you've killed them all. Removing stuff with aphids, like once aphids get pretty intense on a leaf, like really creating airflow.
Right.
We got live pest control.
Pest control with the cats. Cats controlling rats, mice, moles, and then we do occasionally have to catch a bigger pest like armadillo or raccoon, possum, and rehome them.
Got you.
I think that's most of our pests.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I will say, because you mentioned like when I said diverse, you said dense, and actually, to Maggie's point, like density can work with certain plants, but like for instance, the kale, when it gets really dense, the aphids will be attracted to it. So it's actually important to prune and strip some leaves off if you're not consuming them like as quickly as you need to, which does happen to us. So the aphids start coming through, but once we kind of strip them down, get some airflow going, they're on their way. Like they don't stick around once it's not a habitable spot. So
for sure,
it's kind of just paying attention, right? And like noticing, okay, this isn't quite the same as it was before. Let's try to, and it was doing so well before. Let's try to bring it back to that state. And then the pests go away, and you're like, okay, great, we know what to do next. And
exactly,
it's all an experiment, right?
For sure, because certain plants are gonna do well with dense conditions, and that'll be like a resistant to or like a protection. And then some it's like that's a home, because all those leaves on that kale is like the aphids just move in and it's their house. Like you don't want nothing to do with that. Okay, so how do you deal with extreme weather or seasonal changes? Yeah, you guys have extreme weather.
Extreme weather. So the number one problem we've had here is flooding, and that is caused primarily from development.
Okay.
Not just the hurricanes. We've had hurricanes here for centuries. This neighborhood is 50 years old, and until 3 years ago, it had never flooded ever.
Wow.
And so it's 100 meters to our west. There's 1,000 acres of wetlands that have been cleared.
Wow.
This is a story that goes. You all know it. We all know it. And so what we've done after the first flood, after the first bad hurricane, is we built or planted everything above ground level. So it's in these mounds. It starts with bricks, then it's logs, mulch, piled on top. It's a lasagna. You saw that with the banana mounds, the whole centropic orchard next door. Everything in the food forest is about 2 to 4 feet above ground.
The wet area.
So now, like the last flood we had, we lost 10% of our crops. The first flood, we lost 90.
Wow.
So there's the data right there that method works. So water mitigation, building mounds, building up, that's number one to get away from the flooding issue. Windbreaks is another important one. We're surrounded by native forest canopy at the top layer. And in the front where the bamboo and that line of chaos garden is, that is planted specifically to slow the wind down. So in hurricanes, you know, we've been through 4 hurricanes, 2 of them like straight on top of us, direct hits. And aside from a tree here or there, we haven't lost really anything to wind. So wind protection is a huge thing, and building windbreaks and planting, you know, methodically with the thinking of how do I protect against wind. Planting things that are secondary like bamboos or loquats or guavas or those kinds of things on the perimeter, and keeping your avocados, mangoes, heirloom fruit trees in the center.
So can we talk a little bit about how do you protect against wind? You're saying putting the smaller trees in the middle of larger trees?
On the outskirts, on the border zone.
Okay.
So generally for us, the wind is worst out of the northeast during the winter time. That's when it's like, you know, cold and windy all the time. And that's where the wind's coming out, if we can predict that.
Got you.
When a hurricane's coming, it's depending on which direction that hurricane's coming from, what side of the hurricane you're on. So basically it doesn't matter. We've just built a fortress of secondary trees. Like this guy behind us is only here as a windbreak.
Got you.
That's the only reason. It's God. I saw it too. So yeah, it's just, you can plant anything you want as a windbreak on your border. If you have limited space, okay, well then plant. And if you were thinking of planting 2 avocados, well now plant 4. Put 2 of them on the periphery, on the borders and the corners to slow down that wind to protect the other 2 inside.
For sure.
So it can be anything, bamboo. There's a lot of wind resistant fruit trees. Not a lot. There are some that you can get as well. But for us, it's just a smorgasbord of bamboos, rubber trees, palm trees.
Just something that will
citrus
catch
is,
the wind.
Yeah, citrus is somewhat wind tolerant as well. So if you look at our borders, that's what we got going on to slow that wind down before it hits us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so
extreme weather. We also experience drought, so we encourage everyone
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
We encourage everyone to do some sort of irrigation, which was like a major kind of misstep that we did in building this, was like we didn't install irrigation first. And so it's always something to think about when you're planning your food forest, is like, how are you going to handle the other extremes, which is where you get no wind, blazing sun all day, and no water for 30 days straight, because that's like what we just came out of. And so it can get pretty taxing on your time to have to hand water everything. So irrigation, and there are different types of irrigation for each tree, which YouTube has a great sampling of how to irrigate things specifically, whether it's bubblers or sprayers or drip lines, stuff like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was perfect. I'm over here like, oh, irrigation.
I know.
It's the
us too. It's still.
Yeah.
I'm like, irrigation.
Yeah. That's right. That's your expertise.
Not really. We just have hoses all over.
And it looks amazing. So that's why, like, whenever people, that's the battle in my head, because I'm like, team no irrigation. Like, I want to do.
I was that guy too, and I looked like
and got humbled
every single year.
Yeah, because now you're out there hand watering for 3 hours.
Say it again to the
No, I'm not saying.
Wait, so okay, because for a non-garter, what's the problem with irrigation?
Because you're giving up.
Yeah.
You're giving up. You're giving up, and you're putting. Yeah.
I'll be telling her, I installed irrigation.
No, because it's a food forest. Nobody's out in the forest watering. I just feel like there's no outside help.
You guys are really, you found your teammate.
I know. I'm a Capricorn moon, so I'm like, maybe that's what it is too. Yeah, no, you're confused because if you put irrigation, you're putting something else in the forest to mimic the forest.
Okay.
It should already be water. Like, it should be able to sustain enough water to sustain
and given
itself.
enough time.
And that's where
it will get there. But all those
up.
trees you saw over there are brand new. Most of these in here are 2 to 3 years old, so they do require, they can't survive on their own if we go 35 days without water.
Yeah,
and so that is In
But
10 years, I'll be right. I'll be the guy going,
but
why
enough
did we get
mulch
this irrigation
still?
system? Well, here's,
I'm like, I'm gonna
you're-
quit.
I know. You're right about the mulch. The problem is, because we're mitigating against the flood by building them above the ground, they dry out faster. So we solve one problem, create another one.
Gotcha.
And so that's the give and take, the Faustian bargain.
Got
Everything we
you.
do here, it has an equal or opposite reaction.
For sure.
And so,
that's true.
yes, we could plant in the ground and only use mulch and not water, and it would work, but that next hurricane would kill everything again. And so it's kind of like you're just
Got
constantly
you.
playing this game of whack-a-mole, basically.
For sure.
I will say also, like,
Hold on.
what
I'm sorry.
Let's hear it.
this theory, I hear you now. I could see what you're saying. However, we are cultivating a food forest that does not grow naturally here. Like, how much percentage of this food forest is native to Florida?
Very little.
So if there was a food forest that was completely native to this region, I can understand
Not
why
watering.
there shouldn't be watering. We're cultivating all kinds of species that do not grow here naturally. We have things in pots. We have, it's not a natural forest.
Yeah.
I would say a natural forest is supposed to just grow on its own without anybody bringing a hose or irrigation to it. But seeing how everything is the way that it is, irrigation, it's like putting bricks along this pathway. They didn't just appear there on their own. Like, we're cultivating a space, and as much as we do want it to be self-sustaining even on its own, like without a lot of input, we can cultivate an irrigation system that even in its own right is closed loop. It
For sure.
maybe runs off
Rainwater.
solar powers,
Yeah.
or gravity fed. There's so many ways to make irrigation implemented, but also sustainable.
For sure. I hear that. You did that, Savannah. what is it? Clock it. Yeah.
Because I worked on the farm for so long, and I've seen the difference between having consistent watering and then, you know, our garden beds that we are human beings, so as consistent as we can water them, the difference is night and day.
For
like,
sure.
A vegetable or even a fruit tree, like a fruit tree can produce 7-8 months out of the year,
with consistent water.
if their soil is moist every single day, all day, every day,
a jackfruit.
if there's a dryness, then that tree is going to be working on that root system instead of the fruit now. And if that's happening 3 days in a row, then we have like a deficit in fruit. Whereas like if it just had moist soil for those 3 days or for every single day, you know, we would have more
thriving system,
more yield.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense.
Do you guys do any water filtering, or just use straight tap?
For ourselves, we do filtered water, but not for the irrigation yet.
Yeah, we haven't made it like that yet to get the whole home filtration system, but one day.
I think
someone just sent me on my last garden tour that I went to a link to this filter that's on Amazon. It's 2 of them for $24. That's just a hose attachment.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm in the works of purchasing that, but he says like he does the same, essentially installing gardens for other people, and that has done wonders for their garden.
We would love that link.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, Malachi sent it to me, so I need to purchase that and see what it's like for myself. But yeah, I definitely need one too, because the rainwater does totally different for the garden than my hose. So for sure. Do you sell produce? If so, where can people find it?
We actually don't sell produce. We even stopped selling our eggs, which is kind of the only thing we were selling for a while. But we found that we just get such a better feeling when we give it away.
Right.
So when people come for tours, like we like to send them with a basket of stuff to take home with them. And that and also as we grow our community and the agri-hood, like there's just so much more opportunity to give stuff away. Like we haven't really hit a surplus yet. We do have our nursery license, so we sell trees, which I think is more on mission for us. Is like, we can't sell you the avocado, but we can teach you how to plant the avocado. And sell you the tree. So it just it's the teach a man to fish parable of like we want to plant as many fruit trees as possible, plant as many edible plants as possible around our county, our community, the state of Florida, and beyond, and also like help people to do the same for themselves. And but eventually we might end up putting a stand out front.
For the community. Yeah,
for the community, and then also potentially doing. We just did our first market yesterday. We did a native plant sale, which was great, and it was fun, and we kind of proved that we could do it. So there might be something in our future where we do something like that, bring a surplus to market, but it would be like kind of whatever we have, not necessarily. It might be like if we have 100 avocados that all dropped at the same time, it's like we bring those and we teach people and like have an educational element.
That's awesome.
To it at the same time.
I'm looking forward to it, to watching you guys grow. It's going to be so cool. What advice would you give to beginner gardeners who want to start growing their own food?
One step at a time.
One step at a time. I always say just,
is it on?
I clicked the button.
No, it's
still going?
Yeah.
Okay. Just plant one tree is sort of like the get it started, because there's the saying that like the best time to plant a tree is, what is the saying?
10 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah.
The second best is today.
Yeah. So it's like even though the avocado pit that they're growing on their windowsill might not produce fruit, I just think like getting everyone kind of into the gardening mindset and gardening bug is like really important.
For
So
sure.
if it's just like growing herbs on your windowsill and like just making a pact with yourself to like continue to expand the knowledge and like follow your gardening green thumb down the line. Like I think a lot of people get burnt out because they see this and they like want to do this, and so they buy all the stuff and then they're like, that's too much work. And it's like kind of have to really ease yourself into it, I would say.
Oh.
Set up your irrigation.
Yes. Listen to Savannah.
If you want to start a garden that does really well, and you don't have to
do too much work,
because I do think the labor aspect is like a big barrier for people.
For sure.
You're working 9 to 5, like you come home, you still have to cook dinner, you have to take care of the house and the kids or whatever.
But your cauliflower or your collard greens.
You maybe planted a seedling like a month ago and you're like, why haven't you done anything? And it's because
it's dry.
Yeah, and plants only uptake nutrients when their roots are moist. So number one step in my mind is set up irrigation. It can be a hose leading to a sprinkler that's on a timer and you just know it's going to get all of that garden bed, whatever you're about to set up. Then you plant the garden bed. That's my best advice.
Listen to Savannah, y'all.
Don't irrigate. There's joy in irrigation sometimes, not in a drought. I'll give you that.
Okay, mister, I don't have any time.
That's true.
No, literally sounds like our conversations all the time.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on there. I would say if starting out, there will be blood. Like, just get used to that. It's not, I can tell you more what doesn't work than what does. I've killed more trees than I've saved, and that's okay. I know what will grow here now, and I know what won't.
Yeah.
And so I think going into it with the mindset that like one death or that plant didn't make it or I killed that, like, and that's now I'm done, or I'm no.
I don't have a green thumb. I hate when people say that.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Like, you don't have a green thumb? What? You're alive.
Yeah.
Anything alive can create more life.
So I would say going into it knowing that you're not going to win every time, and that's okay. And learning from those mistakes and be like, okay, that kind of bean doesn't work here. All right, let me try another bean. And if that one doesn't work, okay, let me try another one. I don't know how many different beans we've tried here to find ones that worked out well. So, well, that was because of Savannah, but still. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And the last question is, do you have any exciting plans or future plans for your farm/garden? I want to get a condensed answer because I know you guys have like a million. Yeah.
Anarchy.
Small scale, broad scale.
I think the most exciting prospect is one, expanding the farm next door, so acquiring the land next to us and seeing what's possible there as far as like having our neighborhood agroforest over here and then our food forest here, and then whatever iteration that is over there, I think it'll be very different than these two. And so I'm really excited about how that will evolve and how all these things will work together.
I'm excited to come back and see it.
Yeah,
in like a year.
Even it's crazy, even our best friend, like we have a photographer friend that comes and takes pictures of our family and our gardens like once a quarter, and she just came back yesterday and I'm like, look at this and look at this and look at this, like all these new things. She's like, wow,
it's amazing.
So it's always changing. Next time you're here, it'll definitely be wildly different.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
And we have some really cool partnerships coming up. Like some schools have reached out to us and really wanting to develop our nonprofit this year so that we can begin to raise money and do work in the community and like be able to fund some of the stuff that we just can't do because we still need to make money, you know. It's like, and we need to focus on our community here so that we can do this trading economy that we talk about. And so we really have big visions for our community. And so I think opening that nonprofit is going to be a big step in the right direction for us. I don't know how fast it'll take off, but eventually it's going to be something really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That sums it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to that, really.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And expanding our agrihood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like the more families that move in here and want to like subscribe to this lifestyle that we can support and educate and grow with them. And like eventually, by the time this house next to us gets rented out, we're gonna have 10 kids in the neighborhood. Like we might even be able to have our own little homeschool. So
yeah, that would be beautiful.
Super cool. Like the more people that we have that want to live sustainably and be part of the movement, then the more
the dream comes alive.
The dream comes alive. Yeah.
For sure.
And
I love
honestly, like on that note, it's really great that we're able to connect. Like in so many ways, I have a disdain for the internet and that whole world, the internet world, but also on the other side of the coin, like such gratitude for the virtual community that we can have, keep, and maintain. And, you know, the fact that we do have in our vicinity already so many little kids and like adults working on this lifestyle together, but then we can reach out to others in other areas. Even if you guys were, you know, across the country, like there are people across the country that we know that have the same mentality and same goals.
Sorry, I'm in the camera.
And to be able to connect in that way is invaluable as well. So like however we can stay in touch and, you know, come by, we'll always give you plants. I'm sure if we come by and you guys have a popping off food for us by then, we'll take our cuttings, and that's also community, you know.
For sure.
So I'm really grateful for that.
For sure. Yeah. That's been my favorite part. Well, I love this. Like I love gardening. So it's neck and neck though. The community building through garden tours has been invaluable. Like invaluable. Like if the internet goes down or whatever, I can walk to certain people's houses and know that we're family and that we can share food and resources. And just like you said, being able to really connect, because the internet is cool, but it's cool if you do it in person. You can't just stay on the phone. You have to meet these people and share space and develop these relationships. And I'm just so thankful that you guys were so open to even letting us come, because I had some people who were like, yeah, we don't invite strangers to our house.
What? Yeah. We love you. Come on.
And I don't blame them. People are crazy. But, you know, that kind of... They're like you guys. They're doing it all in person. They have an agrohood. I love that name, agrohood. Like, I'm not going to give too much away, but her and her partner, they have different friends that they're building their gardens, and they have kids, and they're all coming together and sharing food. And she's showing it on social media. It's only with people that she knows in person, but you know, they're still doing the same thing. So it's just a difference between people that grow their own food and anybody else that I've met. Like just the ingenuity and the connection. Like we're all very connected.
I literally looked up, because at some point I wasn't convinced. I was like, how are we doing so much? And I like got the plans, and I even did the math. I was like, they did the math wrong or something. And
it's true.
It's true.
Wow.
Especially because the pool is in the, like, this isn't like
and it's
a
huge.
Small pool either.
Depth. It's depth. It's how the way you plant can add space.
For sure. Tyson is over it. It's like enough media coverage.
Playing around with like where you're planting and how you're planting adds.
Got
space.
you.
Like, it tricks the eye.
Yeah. Right.
That's why we like the path system, because it's like we have thousands of linear feet of path